Hello, welcome to Untapped Libraries, a place where esteemed guests come to chat about their magic creations. If I were to call you by my name, I'd call you Neale.
If I were to call you by my name, you would call them Neale. Yes, I guess you can just call me Vinny.
Okay, that's easier. That's logistically easier.
Yeah. It's just, it's my name.
Yeah.
And your name is Neale.
Yep.
And there probably are other people named Neale.
It's very rare.
It's not a common name anymore.
No, it's rare. Sometimes people will mishear me. We live in a French city, and
Montreal.
I've had people hear, they'll say, oh, like The Matrix, and
Neo.
they hear Neo.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. Or I'll be like, oh, Neale, like Neil Young, and that
No one knows who that is.
people are like, I don't know who Neil Young is
Right,
anymore,
right.
which makes me feel old.
Old. Well, we are old.
Even though Neil Young was a bit before my
I think
time.
even Neo is old now.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So you've got no references. You're just gonna have to have a name tag while you walk around.
Yeah, or it can just be a little mysterious.
Yeah, Vinny is not a common name. I mean, it's short for Vincent.
Right,
so.
but it's hard to miss. It's very clear.
Sure. Yeah. It works for me.
So we just got back from MagicCon Rural Quebec.
That's right. We did MagicCon local to our playgroup.
Yeah, well, everyone else was in Vegas. We just got a couple of Magic players together, rented a cottage in the woods, and played Cube and Draft
And Commander. Yeah. That was a good weekend. Just our friends. If you can get like a tiny cottage with a big table, go away for a weekend and just play Magic, that's good.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
It was great. It
Yeah.
was a good time.
Yeah, we played my my typo bunch of themes cube.
Yeah,
that
which was
that
great.
was pretty fun. And then we played some conspiracy draft.
Yeah, we did
It was the first time
what's
playing
it
with
called,
conspiracy.
a chaos draft.
A chaos draft, but everybody started with one conspiracy pack.
Yeah,
And I've never played any conspiracy stuff before.
no, and I just didn't draft any, and then I found out later that a bunch of them were really good.
Yeah,
because things worked differently than I thought.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, oh, I wish I had drafted that. I wish I had drafted that, but
Because they're like secrets that you play face down at the start of every game, and then you can trigger them throughout the game.
yeah, or they're just face up, and it's just an effect that you get.
Right, you start at the game. Anyways, it's a cool way to do a chaos draft.
Yeah, and it's also an older set, and the cards are
The power level,
terrible.
yeah, the card. If you combine it with like a mod, there was a booster of like Edge of Eternities in there,
Yeah.
and the power
It was
level
just
between
like-
Conspiracy and Edge of Eternities is like two completely different games.
It was like opening a Modern Horizons pack in the middle of like a
Right.
bunch of standard packs. It was just like, oh my gosh.
But that was a good time. And I'm glad we got to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's time for some Untapped Gems.
Yeah,
Neil.
this is our first repeating segment.
This is a segment, yeah. It's a good segment. I like Untapped Gems because you always bring an interesting, and by always, the one
We've done
previous
it
time
once.
you've done this, you brought a good gem, so I would love to hear your new Untapped Gem.
Yeah, okay. My Untapped Gem. It's actually a card I drafted this weekend, and I was like, this is a super fun card. It also seemed crazy powerful, but compared to these terrible cards. My Untapped Gem for the week is Mirage Mirror.
Okay.
Really fun. It's very mana intensive. It's not one of these little like 2 or 3 mana clones that comes in and it is a 3 mana artifact, and you can pay 2 mana. It becomes a copy of almost anything on the field. But you could do some really fun stuff with it.
How much does it cost again?
It's 3 mana and it's 2 mana to activate the ability.
Can you play it can you use the ability as a sorcery or as an instant, or is it always a sorcery?
I believe you can play it as a instant.
So you could even like copy a creature that can't be blocked, and then after blockers copy something else.
Yeah. Turn it into a first strike creature.
Oh, that's really wild.
After first strike damage, turn it into a big creature. You could do all kinds of little fun stuff.
If you make it first strike,
Yeah.
and then copy something that doesn't have first strike, does it deal regular damage after?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That's wild.
You can do
That's
all kinds of
some
stuff.
that's some wacky stuff, dude.
Yeah, anyways, super fun card.
Yeah.
Is it super powerful?
Probably not.
Maybe. It's like
fun.
It's like 50 cents, and it's pretty fun in the right deck.
Amazing.
So it can become a artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. Doesn't have to be yours, just anything on the battlefield.
Oh yeah, that's right. It doesn't even have to be yours.
So you could turn into a Guy's Cradle or a Ristic Study or whatever you want. Anyways.
Wow. Yeah, that's really fun.
I think it's fun. Yeah, what's your gem?
My untapped gem is a card that is kind of, I cannot believe it exists, and I have
Whoa.
it in one of my decks, in
Whoa.
my mono white Skrelv deck.
Oh.
So imagine Memory Lapse. Memory Lapse, a blue and 1 counter target spell. If it's countered, the owner puts it on top of the owner's library instead of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Okay. However, imagine that in white. For a
Okay.
white and 2, it's exactly the same text as Memory Lapse. Counter target spell, no restrictions,
Weird.
and it goes to the top of your library. It was printed in Conflux.
Wow.
And so for a white and 2, you get this Memory Lapse, which is a bananas card.
Okay, but Memory Lapse is blue.
Memory Lapse is blue.
What is the white one called?
Lapse of Certainty.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, and so it's totally an instant, totally straight white counterspell that goes to the top of library, so it messes with their draw too.
Yeah, good tempo. It's 3 mana, I guess.
It is 3 mana,
2.
so you got to pay 1 extra in white for counterspells.
Oh, that's a great pick. I love it.
And so just the idea, and like if you're in mono white for commander and you really want to surprise someone, a Lapse of Certainty will probably take people very unawares.
That's a great untapped gem.
And so a little untapped gem for y'all. Here you go.
All right, should we call in our esteemed guest?
The answer is yes.
This week we don't even do the episode every week. I shouldn't call it this.
This episode's?
This episode's guest is Jane, and they've brought a vest cube or a tank top cube. I don't want to call it a wife beater cube.
Therefore, you should not.
No. So yeah, Jane, come on down.
Hey, happy to be here with my unsleeved cube, I assume is where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was naming all the shirts that don't have sleeves.
Yeah, my peasant cube.
Yeah, great. So Jane, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Jane. I am mostly a cube designer and player these days. I got into the game a long time ago through Kitchen Table, EDH pre-releases, things that are less intended for sickos than the cube world is, perhaps. But, over time, grew diseased and ended up being a cube designer, a cube player. I say I design and play cubes these days. I honestly do more on the organizational end than the competing end these days. I run Inland Northwest Cube Fest out of Spokane, Washington, and often am seen bringing various different cubes to larger cube events in the US, as long as they're not too expensive and not too close to other cube events, to make sure that's actually an affordable thing.
Were you at Shoebox?
I was going to be more active over in the artist area, but ended up mostly just keeping track of drafts, hanging out with people, and getting snowed in. But yeah, I was there with Tabletop Cube and the Ball Pit.
Very cool. We've just been talking about how that looks like such a fun event, and we're tempted to go.
Oh, it was so much fun.
Might be worth going to the dark place in order to
the United States.
The United States.
The dark
I don't know if I can recommend visiting us, but if you happen to be in the US, it's a good event to go to.
I'm gonna give Minneapolis a pass. Yeah. Minneapolis is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There are certain places I may not go, but Minneapolis.
That's on my green list.
We're gonna very seriously think about going next year.
A lot of great people there.
So you've brought a box of peasants, which is the name of this cube, and so we'd love to hear you introduce it to us.
A box of peasants is what it says on the tin. It's a box of cards, and those cards are peasant cards, and that's just a kind of catch-all term for commons and uncommons. I'm painting in broad strokes. There's
of course
Pauper as a now sanctioned format by Wizards of the Coast that is a format in which you can run any card that has ever been printed at a common rarity. With a little bit of
wiggle room.
A little bit of wiggle room. As you were talking about earlier, there are some cards called conspiracies that are kind of nuts, and the common conspiracies cannot be run in Pauper. But
I see. Okay.
This cube is a curated selection of cards that are commons and uncommons. So no rares, no mythics, no weird serialized nonsense. Common and uncommon cards still contain a lot of really resonant cards that people recognize. Blood Artist for the Commander players, maybe, or well, Force of Will for the for the commander players. In some ways, Force of Will is an uncommon. I do not run it in this particular cube for reasons that I'll get to later. But as someone who has a lot of cubes, this cube is kind of a literally stripped down experience intended to give people a way to play one specific type of magic. And that's a type of magic that I really like showing to people who might have only ever played Commander before, for example. It's also a type of magic that I think is really good for teaching people how to draft, which is a difficult skill to kind of put under your belt compared to other ways you can play Magic.
I'm not great at it.
Yeah, you're getting better, Neale. You keep saying you're not great at it.
But
you're improving. Improving rapidly.
I did pretty well at this past weekend, actually. But.
Just as a quick recap, for people who don't know what a cube is, it's a curated set of cards that is designed to be split into packs, usually, and drafted by the players at the table. Imagine like an expansion set that basically is built by someone with the cards that they have and can be reused over and over again. It's a really fun way to play Magic. And it's really fun to design. You really get to like make a lot of interesting decisions for the people at the table. And so what was the origin behind this idea for this cube?
The origin for this cube was that I wanted something noticeably different from my other cubes, the main one at the time being the tabletop cube. You know, like you were just saying, a cube is just a collection of cards.
Yeah.
It could be anything. I know people who've made a cube by taking 4 commander decks and shuffling them together and almost making no changes beyond that. Maybe a few.
I'm down with that idea.
It's not the worst idea I've heard.
Imagine taking 4 different red-green stompy commanders and shuffling them all together and then telling people to draft those packs. You might be getting dinosaurs in one direction and like goblins in the other direction, but you can still put together like something that works. You still have green cards that are ramping and red cards that deal damage. You could also do it completely the opposite, and your cube is just full of creatures and then hard control. A cube can be whatever you want it to be, which is kind of the beauty of it from the designer's perspective. The humorous thing about that, then, of course, being you can always design a cube that no one else wants to play. So
it's just a terrible experience.
Yeah, there's famously there was a cube on an online only cube. It did not exist digitally. It was just a list someone made online called the Hidden Gibbons cube. And the card Hidden Gibbons is just a 1-mana green enchantment that does nothing. If you fulfill some criteria, it just turns into a monkey. That's the entire card.
Yeah, there's a whole little cycle of hidden things.
Yeah, they're pretty fun.
I love those cards. I don't really have a place to play them right now.
They're almost unplayable outside of Cube, or now that Pre-Modern's having a comeback, there are a few of them, maybe that one included, that are kind of fringe playable there. Anyway, this cube, which was just a thought experiment that did not exist on paper, was just putting as many copies of that card onto a list as the software of the website would allow the owner to do, which at some point was in the like 5 digits. It was 10,000 or something like that, and at various points, due to the way that Gwen Decker runs Cube Cobra, the website that most people use to keep track of their cubes, that number diminished. That is a cube that anybody could have come up with, and people do not want to draft because it does not work functionally. You cannot play it. And then kind of on the opposite end of that, there's the MTGO Vintage Cube, which is probably the cube that if the average Magic player that you just grabbed out of an LGS has heard of Cube, that's probably the cube they've heard of. Right. Now there's some arena cubes too, so I guess there's a little bit more diversity in terms of that. Outside of, the cube you can play on arena when it's available, or the cube you can play on MTGO when it's available, if you want to play cube, if you want to draft something other than just the booster packs you buy from your LGS, you just have to draft whatever you can find. Do you have someone in your group who has a cube you're interested in? You can draft that. The first cube that I made, which is now called the Tabletop Cube, is a very powerful environment that's full of a lot of big name Magic cards that people see in a pack that they open and go, whoa, there's Emrakul in here, there's Underground Sea, there's Force of Will, for example. Force of Will is in that cube. Those are powerful cards. Very fun cards to just hold in your hands. Very fun cards to play with, especially if you've never been given the chance to before. Half the reason I like having that cube is I can just plop it down in front of people. They'll say, I've never cracked an Arid Mesa to get an original dual land before.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm playing Magic. I feel like I'm doing the thing that the old people did that I've never been able to afford to do, like own a house or whatever. I'm playing with these super cool cards. And that's fun. That's fun to do, especially once in a blue moon. It can also be a lot. You'll have some people playing an environment like that are kind of just sitting there going, there's too much going on. I don't know if I open a pack and that pack has like Soul Ring, Wheel of Fortune, a shock land, a fetch land, my favorite commander. Like, they're like, what do I even pick?
Yeah.
That can be really fun for people, but it can also just make their brain fry. In order to make sure that I have enough variety of my cubes, I try to make sure that I have a cube that anyone who showed up might want to play. Not as in I have one cube that everybody would love, but that I have a cube for each person. This cube was an attempt to kind of do the opposite of that style of really powerful, evocative stuff, which is that it's all commons and uncommons. I call it a box of peasants, and we were joking about, it being the tank top cube, because it's unsleeved. If you can picture one of those old, they used to call them fat pack boxes, now they're starter kits or something like that, the rectangular box. This cube, unsleeved, is 360 cards. And then a few little dividers for like 30 basic lands of each color. That fits exactly perfectly in one of those boxes, unsleeved.
Whoa.
Awesome. My main cube is, it's double sleeved. It's got fancy lands. It's got all this stuff.
Right.
It looks like a bomb. Like, it's in this big metal case that, good luck going through airport security with that. Yeah.
Right.
It's called tabletop because it weighs as much as a tabletop.
You could play Magic on the box.
And that's kind of fun. You flip out the nuclear football and you like open it up and you play with it. But I have a video on my phone of me taking the old starter kit box that I keep this cube in. I keep it in an old Lorwyn box from like 2008 or whatever. I have a video on my phone somewhere because someone, I wouldn't say they convinced me to do this, but I did it at their prompting. I just dumped the whole cube out on the floor from a height of like 4 feet because they're all commons and uncommons. They're unsleeved.
Yes,
They've got a little bit of nicks on them. They've got a little bit of like grime at the edges.
They have love on them.
That's what we call character.
They've been well loved. Almost every time this cube has been drafted is either in an airport or a bar. So it's meant to be just taken places. It's meant to be played with whoever. I can just hand it to someone at a con and be like, have fun. They probably won't steal it. If they do, it's like $30. I mean, I don't know. Now there's some random cards in there where I'm like, oh wait, someone will just be like, well, this uncommon's worth $5, and I'm like, cool. I wish you hadn't told me that because I don't want to think about the monetary value of these cards. They're fun. They're fun little guys. When you restrict yourself to only playing with commons and uncommons, you could still make it really powerful if you wanted to. Like I said, Force of Will, that's an uncommon. I've played people's cubes that are uncommon cubes that have Force of Will in it. No shade at all to them.
Sure.
This cube does not have that. In order to keep it a specific feel, I also made the decision to just only make it cards after 2003. It's only cards that are printed in modern, one of the variations of the modern border. Awesome. It holistically looks clean. I said that I like to teach people Magic. It means that, there's no instant that's labeled interrupt instead of instant, or like mana source for like a dark ritual or whatever.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Everything's templated.
Yeah. Dark ritual mana source.
I think it avoids stuff like Bazaar of Baghdad and Library of Alexandria and all these crazy ancient tomb, like all these cards.
Yeah.
That are crazy expensive.
If anyone ever mails me one and says put this in your cube, I'd be like, sure. But and then I take it out and put it where it actually needs to go. Yeah.
Riffle shuffle this.
Yeah. Riffle shuffle this.
Yeah.
I did just quickly look it up because it is a feature available on Cube Cobra to see how much it costs to purchase the cube.
Oh no! Don't tell. Do
you actually not want to know? Because I won't say.
Oh no, I'm fine to know what this one's worth.
Okay. So on one card selling website, it is $123 US, and on the other that is listed, it is $95 US. So it's still
that's still only about a quarter per card.
Exactly.
in terms of dollar value. That's fine. You can shuffle some quarters together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this is really cool. I guess it's basically like intended to be kind of like a foundations cube.
That's
basically like an intro, like here's magic.
Yeah, this cube has changed over time, and I have a very casual approach to editing this cube.
Mm-hmm.
Editing a cube is in some ways very different from editing a deck, but it can be very similar. And a lot of that honestly just comes down to why you are editing it. Picture 100 card commander deck. Okay, just give me one.
Krenko.
Okay, thank you for giving me a magic card. I know. Actually, I had a Krenko Mob Boss, the original one.
Nice.
Commander deck until earlier this year when I sold it for more cube cards.
Great.
That commander deck was unsleeved riffle shuffled because that's the vibe Krenko's supposed to have.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You know, when a new set comes out, there will be new goblins because there's always new goblins. You look at the new goblins that are out. Maybe, there's an artifact that untaps a creature because that goes into Krenko as well.
Yep.
You look at those cards and you just say, first of all, do I want to even bother acquiring these cards?
Yep.
Is the art awful and they cost $100? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna skip that one. Is it a really fun card that I already have a copy because I opened it in the pre-release, or it's affordable, I bought it online? Sure. Then you are deciding what card you're gonna cut for it.
Right.
That's often very one for one. It's like if this goes in, something has to come out.
Right.
I have to have 100 cards in a cube like this one. I am actually going to answer your question eventually about if this is Foundations.
That's all good. Yeah. It's been like the intro to cubes.
Yeah. When I have been changing this cube over the years, I have moved a bit further away from the idea of it being like kind of a Foundations style of environment than how it started. But it is still in that vague theme. And what I mean by that is when I first built the first version of this cube, it was much simpler than it is right now, and it was lower power than it is right now. That was a more Foundations the set feeling environment. Nowadays, I don't know if you two have been playing for... How long have you two been playing?
So we have a similar story. We both started playing during Revised. And then played for a little while and then stopped for a decade or two and then came back for me during the pandemic.
I can tell you exactly the set. Neon Dynasty brought me back.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people with similar arcs, exactly when they left and exactly when they came back. I started playing in around 2010. So 2011 maybe, the tail end of the first round of Zendikar stuff. And then solidly in the first round of Scars of Mirrodin, Shadows over Innistrad, that era.
Nice.
Back then, you could open a booster pack and open a card that was just a vanilla creature. 3 mana, 2/3,
Right.
Sometimes nowadays, they'll kind of nod to that by printing, a 2 mana 4/1. And they're like, well, the joke is that we made a vanilla card that's stronger. And I'm kind of like...
Ether Drift had those vanilla legendaries that were really fun. I was like, wow, that's fun.
0
and they're
2
legendary.
mana. Yeah, and legendary, yeah.
So the first version of this cube was simpler. There were a few cards that were vanilla. There were less cards that did more than like one thing. That was a little bit too simple for what I wanted. Because I do like really simple, elegant cards. And I still believe those are some of the best cards to teach people how to play Magic.
Right.
Which I have taught people how to play Magic with this cube. That, you can teach someone how to play Magic with anything. You'll just have more or less success with it.
Yeah.
But I am more over the years shifting this cube to embrace the fact that the average person I'm teaching to play cube is used to playing environments where everything is already overwhelming. They're already used to sitting down at a commander table where they only know a third of what's going on.
Yep. Someone who's diagonally across from me, you're just like, just tell me if something happens that relates to me.
Yeah. Or you like poke the person next to you and you're like, let me know if you think they're going to cast a board wipe, because that's all I care about.
Yeah.
With that realization, I wanted to juice up this cube a little bit in the ways that would get people interested. Because just when you're teaching someone any skill, which I do a lot of just teaching in the various hobbies I'm in, there's kind of a generic rule of thumb, which is that when you first teach somebody something, they're never going to learn the thing perfectly the first time.
Sure.
So the most important rule, other than that you're just a kind human, is that they want to learn a second time.
Right.
The most important thing is that they just want to come back, you know, especially with like a social group, which is what most drafting is. You want them to come, maybe have a weird time and not entirely know what their deck was supposed to do, but think, I don't know, the people were fun, and I feel like I was having fun. I want to do better. I want to like try out something new, and that they want to come back again. And for that, I started slowly upping the complexity, and for some cards upping the power level that I allowed to put into the cube in order to make that still be fun for them. And along with that, I let myself push the spectrum of power that I put into this cube.
Right.
There are cards in here that a good cube drafter would look at the list and go, "Oh, that's a mistake. That cube designer, why did they put in, you know, what's a good example of, I mean, there've been a lot of them over the years. Why did they put in blank card? That's just, that card is way better than every other card in there."
Yeah. I mean, I see reanimate in here, and already I'm like, okay, that's an outlier.
Oh, I can get to that one later. But yeah, reanimate. We'll use that as an example. They'll see reanimate in here and be like, "Oh, that card's better than everything else in here." They might be right, but there's two things about reanimate. First of all, if you remember what I said about opening a pack and not knowing what to pick, if you open a pack and every card is the exact same power level, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
You either have to just pick the one that you like the best, which is fun, but doesn't give people a sense of agency. It feels like they're just kind of, you know, rolling the dice. You can give them flat power level, or you can give them a few cards that stand out.
Yeah.
That they might think, "Oh, well, you know, this pack, I opened it up. I see reanimate is really good. I see shock. That's just a very generically powerful, cheap removal spell."
Yeah, but probably like the 8th best 1 mana do damage spell. Like it's
exactly. Yeah, I see. Here's one for the commander players in some ways. I guess it's out of date now. I see Baleful Strix. That's a powerful.
That one stood out to me when I saw it. I was like, that's just a good one.
Those are just good cards, and that can help a drafter get started.
Yeah.
Because if they have something that catches them a little bit more at the start, then it's more likely that they'll kind of get their feet under them.
One of the things I love about Magic is different people have such different things that they want to do with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, someone might, you know, have zero interest in goblins, but they see a cat and they're like, amazing, I'm going to go in this direction. And by giving them a cube and giving them all these choices, you're also enabling them to do what they enjoy.
Yeah, if you gave them Hordling Outburst, but it made cats instead of goblins, there'd be people who pick that in a heartbeat, whereas the goblin one just makes them go, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just goblins.
So we're not going to be able to get to every card in the deck, but we should start like looking into the deck and like kind of like going down. I don't know how, is it by color the best way to kind of look at these?
So for the listeners, this is an audio medium. Cube Cobra is the website that most people use to keep track of their cubes. It's like Moxfield, but designed by a cube designer for cube designers.
And we will have a link to the cube on our Moxfield, which is where we keep links to everything.
You can sort it yourself how you want to, but right now it's spread out by color. And honestly, you can just popcorn. If there are things you see that you want to talk about, talk about them.
Well, I would like to know if you had like any specific kind of like themes or archetypes in mind, or is just like, this is fun, this is a good card, I put it in.
As a cube designer who wants to make compelling cubes, say that I have a lot of themes that I try to push people towards and specific things I want to allow people to do.
Right.
As Jane, the person who just likes Magic a lot, there's definitely some stinkers in here that are just a Jane card.
Right, great.
You know, I put that there. It's my cube.
I love that.
It's just in there. And as long as you don't do too many of those.
If you can't put that here, where can you put it?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe no one will draft it, but they'll see it. They'll look at it.
Exactly. And if it's either really, really too strong or absolutely unplayable, you know, you can give it its time in the sun. Put it in there for a month and then, you know, take it out when enough people have complained.
I love it. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start? What's the first, like, what are some of the cards that are like, oh, I know what I'm going to start this cube with?
When I first built it,
yes, when you first built it, you're like, I've got some
Ooh,
ideas here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Actually, I was going to say, why don't we start out, Vinny, how about you read the entire list?
Okay, I'll read the whole list.
Can you do it in the like Pokemon rap style?
Brave Kid,
That'd be
do
great.
and Doom Traveler.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you an example that's early on in the list, which is Topplegeist. Topplegeist is 1 white mana. It's a 1/1. It's a creature spirit with flying. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. And then it has Delirium at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. If there are 4 or more card types amongst cards in your graveyard, you can also tap target creature that player controls.
Great.
This is a little guy. He's got great art, Seb McKinnon, a little bit problematic, but, the art stood out to me as soon as that Shadows over Innistrad set dropped. This is a card that's just not very strong,
Yep.
If you're a limited player, you're saying, what's she talking about? Topplegeist is a great card.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Draft is
I draft
different.
it every day. Yeah.
The only people who have Topplegeist in their commander deck are people I want to be friends with because something's going on there.
Yeah.
And it's that they just like fun little spirits. I played Shadows over Innistrad. I love this card. I enjoy playing aggressive decks in draft formats when that's possible. I did enjoy playing this in draft. If you are drafting and not playing a commander deck, you are often going to find yourself in an environment where just having little creatures that you can chip in for damage consistently but slowly is more powerful than you might originally think.
Yep.
Because when you start at 20 life instead of 40 and only have 1 opponent instead of 3, life totals really, really matter.
100%.
Topplegeist, I actually, in the early days of my tabletop cube, ran in that cube. Honestly, it would be defensible for me to add it back in at this point, now that I've powered down that environment a little bit. The point is, I didn't really have a home for this card, and this is the sort of card that I want to shine in an environment like this one, for a few reasons. First of all, it's a cool card that the average Magic player has not seen. The average Magic player, if they open this card, they're like, oh, that's kind of... I would put a sticker of that on my laptop. They're like, that's a cool little guy.
I'd get that playmat.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone out there probably has a tattoo of it. It's a cool little thing. You look at this card and you're like, okay, it's a 1 mana 1/1 flyer in white that taps a creature when it enters the battlefield. So this is an aggressive creature. I'm a deck that wants to just deal damage to face.
Yep.
So if I cast this on turn 1, perfect.
Yep,
Every turn. I've got them on a 20 turn clock already.
Yeah.
I'll say this is a very Neale coded card.
Oh, yeah.
Neale is all Boros aggro.
Yeah. I kept getting these 1-drops at this draft we did on the Chaos draft. Oftentimes, if I go to a pre-release, you can't really build an aggro deck. You can't get 6 or 7 good 1-drops. And this would go in it all day. Yeah, first turn, you start chipping in damage. Late turn, gets a blocker out of the way. It's a great aggro
even
card.
just like on turn 1, you do something else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turn 2, you play whatever your best 2-drop is. Turn 3, you play your second best 2-drop and this.
Yeah.
And then you can swing freely with whatever the other thing is. It's clean.
Yeah.
It lets you do stuff. It still lets you feel like you're making decisions. Maybe you play against a person where you have to hold onto it until the late game because they've got a big lifelink creature you saw, and you have to be able to tap that down to do your big alpha strike or whatever. There's some skill expression there. And then it also just has this weird little delirium tag on the end of it,
the delirium surprised me.
which I will point this out. This is the sort of card in a cube that some cube players or cube designers would look at and say is slightly problematic because of that delirium.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I've put a card in front of people that says, hey, if you put this little puzzle together, you get a bonus.
Yep.
And in this cube, that's a very difficult puzzle to put together for not a crazy amount of payoff.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you're a cube designer, more so than when you're just building a deck, you kind of have to put your own brain on hold for a second and say, what are my drafters going to think?
Yep.
If I have a commander deck and there's a card that has, I love the phrase when you describe a line of rules text on a card as flavor text. Because you just know it's never going to be relevant. That's one of my favorite.
Don't worry about
That's one of my favorite things to do. I'll cast a card during a pre-release, and I'll be like, okay, it's a card. It's a 2 mana. It has first strike. The rest is flavor text. Because it's some intended for commander thing.
Yeah, it's never going to be relevant.
If you have 60 life or more,
if I have 6 goats in play, it gets first strike. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it adds to the vibe, but it's not gonna affect the game.
All vibes.
As a drafter, though, that's a little bit more difficult because if you see Topplegeist in your first pack, you might think, "Oh, this is a cube where I'm gonna be able to get stuff into my graveyard consistently." Because why would there be a Delirium card in here if I'm not gonna be able to trigger it? And you can get Topplegeist to function as a Delirium, tap something every turn. I see it happen not super infrequently, but it's not going to happen all the time.
Right.
As the cube designer, it's just in a great and terrible way. It's always up to me how much of that I'm okay with. How much I'm okay with doing what cube designers will often call giving a trap for your drafters to fall into. For someone to say, "Oh, I saw something fun and I ran after it, and then oops, I face planted because I spent the first whole pack trying to draft something that worked with this one little build around, and then I didn't see enough of it." And then one of the other drafters just goes, "Why would you try to build around that? That's your fault."
Right.
You can throw blame as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if that's something I don't want to happen, I need to be the person who makes the decisions for it.
Right.
We brought up reanimate earlier, and like a fair reanimate where you don't have a lot of discard outlets is a lot different from something that just lets you shovel stuff into the graveyard nonstop.
Yeah. This is a cube that has reanimate, and reanimate can be very good in it, but it is not a cube where reanimate does what people think that it will when they see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like the most basic thing I can say about it is that none of the big creatures in black have lifelink.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you're paying for it.
You're paying for it.
That's a simple thing, but you're paying for it. You're not going to get it back, probably.
You're not getting it back. Right.
And also, I mean, the biggest creatures in black are just stat monsters. Gurmag Angler, and for the Bloomburrow girlies out there, Huskburster Swarm, the elemental insects. It's has Menace and Death Touch, but not lifelink. You know, if you're getting back a big creature in this cube, it's probably that you are green black and you're getting back Colossal Dreadmaw, you know, or Sheffet Monitor. You cycled Sheffet Monitor on turn 4 to get a land, and then on turn 5 you reanimate it. And really, that's just good, clean magic. It's pretty fair in this iteration of the cube that reanimate does something truly unfair. My favorite thing for it, which is how it's usually played, is it's just a card you use to get back a creature.
Right.
Which sounds dumb. You're like, that's literally what the card says. But most people think of reanimate as a card that just like kills people.
Yeah.
Right.
And in this cube, it's usually like, no, I played Banisher Priest. I got rid of their best target.
Right.
They killed my Banisher Priest and got back the thing. Well, I reanimate my Banisher Priest.
I need this
and
priest.
I get rid of it again.
It almost feels like the way that card was meant to be played, where like I don't think they imagined all this milling and discarding, and you know, you play a giant creature, it dies, you get it back. Like, I sort of feel like that's probably what they imagined when they first designed that card.
What's a card that you feel like when you're playing this cube, you want to see so you could pick it?
Ooh, okay. Unfortunately for me, almost all of them. Because I've put so many cards in here that I like. However, I will say...
the card you have a soft spot for here.
Yeah. This is a cube without a lot of multicolored cards.
Right.
Yeah.
It has approximately 60 cards of each of the 5 colors.
Yeah.
Almost no artifacts.
Right.
And then there's about 3 guild cards for each color pair.
This is something that I wanted to actually talk about.
Yeah.
The list that I have in front of me, there's literally 3 for every single one.
I know where this question
except Azorius has 2 and Dimir has 4.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. I look at it, and the OCD part of me is like, cut a Dimir card, add an Azorius card.
Yeah. What do I do? And a lot of cube designers call that spreadsheet aesthetics.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I like that.
Not in a positive way, not in a negative way. That's just the category of thing. So you're looking at the top here where you're like, white, 60 cards, blue, 59.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Number
black,
different.
60, red, 59. Oh, I'm going to kill this one. What is she doing? Green, 60. You know, it's just slightly off.
Yeah.
This cube has had perfect numbers at various points.
Sure.
I will admit that my brain is happiest when numbers clean and nice and look good.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to make the cube worse in order to make it look better.
Of course.
Yeah.
The quick answer for you, Dimir only really has 3 guild cards in it because Druenor Corpse Trawler is only blue to cast it.
There you go. Yeah.
It's just that you can
There's a bonus.
activate its activated ability. Yeah.
Otherwise,
also,
it's flavor text.
It's a test. I don't know how long it's going to stay in.
So it should actually be in the mono blue column. Therefore, the mono red column is 1 less.
Correct. If you want to think about it that way, yeah.
So you got to add a red card, not cut a
Neale, settle down.
He's objectively right. That's just like what has to happen. No, the Azorius, and here I'll start talking about things that excite me when I open a pack, and also the themes of the cube. If you look at Azorius right now, there's Reflector Mage, which bounces a creature and then makes it harder for them to cast it again, and Thunderclap Wyvern, which is a flash flying drake that buffs all of your other flyers.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of multicolored cards in this cube. Almost all of the multicolored cards are what cube designers often call signposts.
Right.
Meaning they're a card that when you see it, you go, well, one of these bounces stuff to hands and is a really good control card. Yeah. I can do white-blue control. The other one is only good if you have other flyers out.
Right.
So unless Jane's straight up dumb or mean, then hopefully I can play other flyers that will show up in other packs.
I'm going to tell you,
there's probably ones in that pack.
A quick story from the cube that we played this weekend, which are some last second additions I made to my cube.
Yeah.
From Lauren Eclipsed. I threw in.
Oh yeah.
What was it? The Prismari command.
Yeah.
What are they called?
I have no idea.
I guess it's
It's the rare
blue
red.
It's a rare blue red, and in 3 of the things you could play in almost any red blue deck, but the third one was like copy any elemental into a token.
Yeah.
It was in like a first pick, and they picked it like, oh, there's clearly a bunch of elementals in this cube. I put it in thinking, oh, well, the first one is totally just it's just like you forget about. It's flavored exactly that. And the other 3 are going to be useful. Like, it's still a useful card, even if there are no other elementals. But I also totally forgot about the signpost effect, which is like, oh, this is in the cube. There's got to be more elementals.
And this person was like, I'm going into elementals. This is my
this is
what
jam.
I'm going to draft.
Yeah.
And then like
there's one more elemental.
Yeah. Several rounds later, they were like, I think I'm going to take goblins now because it's not working.
I really goofed that. Anyways. So signposts important in a cube.
Yeah.
I will defend you in that scenario, which is that if you draft a card that says build around elementals and you're not seeing any other elementals, you're being forced to pick other cards. Yeah. You could choose to still draft a functional 100%. Deck. At the end of the day, again, blame is always shared if somebody wants to give blame on, how that goes. However, in this cube, this is mostly a monocolored cube. The signpost uncommons or commons in the multicolored section are often exciting because either they cue you in when you see them on one of the things that you can do in that color, or they are a build around of a variety that might be a power outlier for the power of the cube / that just lets you do a thing that otherwise you can't do a ton of.
Makes sense.
Otherwise.
So you have to commit to both of those colors. So
yes, you'd have to commit to both of those colors. It's good to make choices. Seeing one of those early on can be nice because, if you're drafting on a Monday night when my play group usually drafts, sometimes you're just like, it's been a long day. I opened my first pack and it has Crom Violent Cacophony in it. This is an Is It card that is definitely one of the power outliers on the high direction in this cube because it's a 4-mana 2/3 with flying, whatever, that whenever you double spell gets a bit larger and draws you a card. That's an engine in a cube that does not have a ton of engines. This is a cube with Colossal Dreadmaw. Colossal Dreadmaw is a pretty good card in this cube just because it's 6/6 and it has trample. Those are important things. But if they kill your Dreadmaw, it's gone. Maybe you have reanimate, but you're one for one things.
You're drawing some cards. It's 2 for 1 or more for 1, I guess, technically.
And Crom is in here for 2 reasons still, despite being really strong, which is that, first of all, he's not great on turn 4, being a 4-mana card. If you cast it on turn 4, they're probably like, you dum-dum, I have a removal spell. Basically every removal spell in the cube is able to kill him, which really means that he's either just like a removal check, which is not what you want to be spending the best card in your deck doing, or he's I want to build a blue-red control. I want to build a blue-red deck that lets me cast this on turn 5 with like slip out the back in my hand, or cast it on turn 6 with run away together in my hand. Something that lets them be reactive such that they're always getting the value off of it. So honestly, Crom might be my favorite thing to see in the first pack that I open of this cube, despite not being my favorite card. I really like proactive decks. I really like decks that cast a lot of cards. I do really like Izzet. I really like spell slinging, being able to cast my cards whenever I want to. It lets me feel like I'm making smart choices when I have to make a lot of choices. I would say that's pretty high up there. Also, just, a card like Reanimate. It might not be played the way it normally is in this cube, but it's always going to be good in my deck. And it's always going to push me in a direction towards the sort of deck where my life total is irrelevant. I'm just trying to get theirs down before mine goes down. That's a fun race.
We're kind of running towards the end of the episode, so I think we have time to like highlight maybe one more card. And I'm going to just, direct people to the Mox Field, the Untapped Libraries Mox Field, or the Cube Cobra. You just look up a box of peasants and you'll see Jane's cube. What is a card in this cube that usually gets like a big reaction from players when they see it?
Good question.
I will have to scan the list real quickly because sometimes those cards end up coming out. Sometimes there'll be a card that gets a strong reaction from people because they're like, whoa, this card seems powerful. And I'm like, yeah, it is. You should draft it. Or if you don't draft it, you should be prepared to have that be a painful experience. Cards that cause people to have a reaction. I would say Gray Merchant
Gary
is one of them. That's just a good card. I will also, this might be a little bit of a discussion topic, but that if so, that would be a good last one. Vine Lasher Kudzu, because it's a rare, not an uncommon or a common.
So why is it in here?
If you've spent any amount of time in the cube space, you will encounter a large school of people who say, if you're running a common and uncommon cube, there's probably rares that you should be running in there that you're not running only because you want that color in the rarity symbol to be different. There's a lot of truth on both sides to the statement. I'm not going to get into an argument about how you should run your peasant cubes, how you should run your pauper cubes. My stance for this cube, one of the beauties of this cube is that the average person who is new to draft and sits down with it is just straight up surprised that people are playing without rares. It's different. It's a new way to play Magic if you haven't done a lot of, sealed or draft before.
Especially with Commander, where the deck is probably like at least half rares, most decks.
Exactly, yeah. Even your lands are often rares at this point. So I want almost every card that gets opened to make people think, wow, I'm playing with commons and uncommons. Not just low power. Some of these are very powerful cards, but I'm playing with cards I might not have chosen to if it wasn't that Jane was forcing me to play with only those rarities.
I love that. What this highlights for me, and I think is true, is I don't think people should handcuff themselves when they're building a cube with things are like, I want my cube to be like this, but my cube would be better if I had exceptions to like guidelines and not rules, right? Like I think it's good to have kind of like a sandbox to play in, but don't artificially handcuff yourself. If something isn't working or something would be better without that, then do the thing that makes your cube better.
Hard agree. And this card, it epitomizes everything about that for me. It's a super simple card. Nowadays, it would be at least an uncommon, if not a common. Humorously, multiple years ago, even before the last few years of power creep, they printed Fearless Fledgling, which is 1 and a white instead of 1 and a green. Also a 1/1, has the same text on it, but it also gets flying when a creature
read Vine Lasher.
Yeah, we should read Vine Lasher Kudzu.
Much better card.
So Vine Lasher Kudzu is 1 and a green for a creature, plant 1/1. Very simple ability. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. Super simple. Great.
Really fun.
Yeah.
And it's flavor text. It grows to hate you.
Oh yeah. Very important.
It's Mark Tadine art. It's beautiful. The other card that I'd mentioned is the exact same thing, except when a land ETBs, it also gets flying until end of turn. That card is actually also in this cube, in the white section. I love that it makes people think. They go, wait, one of these is just functionally better. That's annoying. Wait, except the weaker one is a rare. Wait, but also green is the color that can take advantage of landfall.
So
better.
Yeah.
Also, are there other rares in here? Also, do I want there to be other? Also, do I hate that this is in here because it's a lie? Also, is that why it grows to hate you? Do I hate this? Like, people have existential crises over this card and will like wave it at me at the start of a draft and be like, Jane, this is a rare.
Fix this.
What's going on? And I'll just be like, think about it. And the fact that there is one rare in here means that I can, when people say that I should add more, that I shouldn't handcuff myself. I can have my cake and eat it too. I can be like, I don't know, it's mostly commons and on, but there's Vine Lasher cards. I'm not letting the rules.
Like a little bit
back.
of agency. It's like, so, I can do whatever I want.
That's right.
It's my cube.
You're in my house now.
Yeah.
I have a stack of like 5 to 10 cards. It varies every once in a while that are rares. I would put into this cube if I ever reached the point where I wanted to put in more of them. Every few months, that pile gets one more card in it. And I don't know if I'll ever make that change. It's a load-bearing decision to make for the cube because it would not be a Peasant Cube if I changed that dramatically. And that could be for the better, but it would be different. And that's just not always something that you want to do with like a project that you've had for a long time.
I think that's a great place to wrap this up. Thanks so much for joining us and highlighting this super fun cube. Again, we'll encourage people to check it out on cubecobra.com, a box of peasants, or on our Moxfield at Untapped Libraries. Where can people find you, Jane? Online or otherwise?
Or would you rather they don't find you?
On podcasts, I generally just... I was going to say, on podcasts, I'll generally say, don't find me. If you run into me at a cube event, be like, are you that person that does cubes? And I'll be like, am I? And I'll fade into the background. No, you can find me on Blue Sky at Jane McKinney. Or if you go into the MTG Cube Talks Discord, that's... I don't really use social media much, even Blue Sky. But if you want to talk about Cube, the MTG Cube Talks Discord is just one of the most beautiful little corners of the internet. And if you just tag at Jane in that server, I'll answer.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Jane.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Go draft a cube. Find your local sickos.
So one little personal note I want to put on this. My grandmother was a huge card player, and I grew up age of 5 playing cards.
Okay.
And there's something about a sleeved card that just doesn't feel as natural to me. So I built a I built a vest or tank top commander deck. I love it. It just feels more
card
natural to me.
I am actively putting together a cube that is sleeveless.
Yeah.
You just, riffle shuffling it raw. That is modern border, meaning the 2003 to 2014 specific border, all within that one category. And it is not cheap cards only. The pile already has a top in it, a Sensei's Divining top. It has some fun cards. I still need to hunt down a copy of Dark Confidant for that cube.
Some Dear Gonti vibes.
The original printing of it. But I want that. Yes, I have been doing Dear Gonti type of environment since pre-Gonti. And it's the perfect summation.
Thanks so much for joining. Hope to run into down the road somewhere, if not on the Discord, elsewhere.
Perhaps a shoebox.
Yeah.
Super Cube, I'd love to play that. I wish there was a local cube community.
Do it, Vinny.
It's
up to you.
It's on the long list of things that if I wish they existed, I have to do it myself.
Yeah.
Oh, this was super fun. I'm always happy to talk cube. This looks like a lot of fun to play. It's totally right up my alley for sure.
So play it on a bar with a sticky little beer stain.
Maybe not a sticky one, but a crumb-filled one sounds good.
Just being not too precious.
Don't want to be too precious about it. All right. Well, that's another one for the books. You can find us on Blue Sky and YouTube as Untapped Libraries, as well as on Moxfield, where all of our guest deck lists or cubes, or a link to them, will be available. Our music is by Sparkling Water. You can find all of their music wherever you get your streams. Untapped Libraries is a proud part of the Podcavern Network, found at podcavern.com. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for cube clubs, We can be reached at untappedlibraries@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and keep building.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in a city full of superheroes? To literally see people fly across the sky? Crap.
What are you up to, Angus?
Oh, hey, Sal. I'm trying to record an ad for the podcast.
Heroes don't do paperwork?
Yeah, that one.
Need any help?
Yeah, actually. I'm just trying to tell people about the show, about how you and I work at a newspaper in Super City, and how we interview various citizens, from the people we call neighbors to the city's greatest heroes. But I'm having trouble wording it.
You could just use that section you recorded and put that in.
Huh. Yeah, I suppose I could. Thanks, Sal.
Don't worry about it. I'm off to the office supplies store. It got hit with a shrink ray, so everything is 50% off. Want to come?
You know what? I kind of do. Oh, for those of you hearing this, if you want to hear more about the thrilling adventures and heroics of Super City, come check out Heroes Don't Do Paperwork on the Podcaster Network. All right, let's go.